Okay, so for the last 10-minute discussion, we're going to talk about substitution. And substitution is going to come up over and over and over again throughout this course because it's one of the foundations of how we make decisions. And it's the concept that we, rather than doing a hard mental decision, we substitute it for something easier. So for substitution, we take a target question that you intend to solve, and then we use a heuristic question, which is a simpler question that you answer instead. And this is the first time I've introduced the concept heuristic formally, but you'll hear me use it over and over again. A heuristic is a rule of thumb that you use instead of doing type 2 processing. It's the rule of thumb that type 1 processing invents, like a strategy. And they can be good if they help you make accurate decisions, which some of our heuristics do, or they can be bad if they lead you to the wrong conclusion. That's a concept of heuristic. For substitution, it's interesting actually. So I'm not sure if any of you experienced this when you were studying for your SATs, ACTs. What do you take here? In California? Yeah. You take both. Oh, geez. Okay. That's rough. So I remember when I was studying for my GREs, if you're going to go into grad school, you might have to take these GREs, that one of the strategies they told us was that if you can't solve a problem, then there is an easier problem you can solve. That is a problem for decision making. That is generally not going to help you in decision making in most cases. But this is what we try to do. We try to solve an easier problem rather than a hard problem. So if we had a target question, such as, how much would you contribute to save an endangered species? We substitute it for an easier heuristic question, such as, how much emotion do you feel when you think about dying dolphins? We take something hard, like thinking about a numeric calculation, and we swap it for just an emotion. How do you feel about dying dolphins? Let's do another one. What rating will you give Dr. Padilla's class? Something I care deeply about. And when you're asked this question, that can be a very difficult thing to decide. And I propose to you what you will likely do at the end of this course is, rather than doing some calculation of all of the materials that I presented to you or all the content we went through, something like that, you'll make a heuristic judgment, such as, how much do I like Dr. Padilla? Or, how happy am I with my grade? That's likely what will influence how you rate the course. And that isn't a problem unless it creates some issues for certain groups of people. So historically, at every university, professors of color and women have lower class ratings because we use these heuristics for how we judge people's quality. So generally, especially with people of color, we tend to like people who look like us. So if you have a more positive feeling about someone who looks like you, then you're more likely to rate their class higher than your class. So that's what you see nationally, and it varies per region, but generally you see that women and individuals of color get very systematically lower class ratings because it's pretty hard to evaluate the quality of the class. If really you were to do it correctly, we would ask you 10 years from now what class was important to your life. And then you'd have better information about if this class was good or not. But it's pretty darn hard after you've taken all of your finals and you have lack of sleep to then figure out if this class was good or not. So you might just say, did I like the class? Am I happy with my grade? I'll move on. Okay, so let's do a little mini experiment. I'd like everyone to have a writing utensil, either a computer or a piece of paper, whatever you need to write something down. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. So the first question is, how many sunny days has there been this month? Just write down the number on your page. what month we're in. I'm just as lost as you all are. Okay, next question. How happy are you? And I want you to rate that on a rating from 1 to 10, 1 being not happy at all to 10 being completely happy. Everyone got it? The actual version that has been tested more systematically is how many dates have you been on this month? And of course, how happy are you? So in your mind, you can get a sensation that these priming questions evoke emotions, maybe happy or maybe sad. And then when you're asked a question that is unrelated, you use your emotional state to evaluate that question. How happy are you? And this is called the Moot Heuristic, or an affect heuristic for happiness, which is the reliance on good or bad feelings to make assessments about information. The issue with these affect heuristic, or our reliance on these good or bad feelings, is that our emotional state is easily manipulated or easily changed. For example,
You guys grew up together.
Since 3rd grade. What are you looking at?
I'm not looking at it.
We're not good enough for you. You look for something else?
No, I don't know.
What are you, big supermodels? Oh, Jesus. Supermodels. What do you model, gloves? What are you doing? A girl's totally into me.
Brad, eat a Snickers.
Why?
Because you get a little angry when you're hungry. Better?
Better. So, ladies.
So, losers.
Stacy, relax.
Sorry.
You're not you when you're hungry.
right? Okay, so the point here is just simply that our emotions are easily manipulated by outside forces. So when we use our emotions as a way to judge information, that's really inaccurate metric because it'll be influenced based on how often you've eaten recently, how many calories you have, if you've been on dates, if you like the weather, and so on. Okay, so a summary for this section is that substitution is when we swap a harder judgment for an easier judgment. Heuristics are rules of thumb or shortcuts. And then the affect heuristic is when we rely on emotional response rather than use type 2 processing.